there is a country right next to our own great nation, and there is this country whose people are belong even closer to our hearts. And this country, it's very, relatively smaller in size, but the truth is India shares the longest land boundary with this country, that is a massive 4,096 kilometers, almost 4,100 kilometers. And we Indians were the first to recognize it as a sovereign state. And not only that, we played a pivotal role in liberating it from you can say, the oppressive rule of one of our other neighbors, and finally, liberating it to gain independence. And it has more been, emphasized that the differences between, from the era of the British, since the British Raj came to India, they often tried to divide these two parts on the basis of religion. You know what religions I'm talking about, and I'm not going to go into that. The thing is that the country that we are going to talk about today is related to its own neighbor India in more ways than one. Not religion, but ethnicity, traditions, culture, language, the love for arts, the folk dances, the folk music. All these, they form such a cauldron that we cannot exactly. We wish that this were a part of our great nation. And the country I'm talking about is Bangladesh. So recently, Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina paid a visit, that is from 5th to 8th September. And during her visit, she made it amply clear that despite some irritants, despite some disputes, some animosities, the two leaders, our Honorable Prime Minister Modi and herself, they have nurtured such a nice relation, such a nice bilateral cooperation, whether be it in terms of the trade, whether the exchange of culture, tourism and travel, whether the exchange of the COVID vaccines, the medical treatments, training of the border personnel. So all these have, both our nations have come a long way. Both these nations have come such a long way. They have been part of bilateral pacts and agreements that we should not give any opportunity to this bipartisanship or local politics and all these destructive and anti-national elements to make use of any sort of incidents or any sort of provocation to again prove to be, so that they can prove to be fissures or cracks. They can just start digging a hole or a ridge between the two countries. So with that in mind, there are a lot of points to discuss. I have a lot of points to discuss in this India-Bangladesh relations, but I'll just try to be crisp and concise as always, so that you also become interested and not only gain knowledge, but attach yourself to what actually these two nations mean for each other. So we'll just start now. So this, as always, the news bites. So like it's written, India, Bangladesh, divided by fate but united by freedom. So divided by fate, we can say, if you have gone through history, if you know a little bit of history also, we know our benevolent governor generals and viceroys. One such was Lord Curzon, who just wholeheartedly he put his entire heart and soul into dividing the two parts of Bengal. And that was an impetus for the growth and widespread nature of nationalism and that fervor, that zeal to rid our country, that gave birth to lot of slogans and lot of activities. Women came and participated in pocketing and boycotting the goods, and all these this was the precursor of what was to come. This was a precursor to the important and watershed movements in Indian history, like the non-cooperation movement, like the Quit India movement, and finally our independence. So this is very important to remember. I'll not go into depth. And even important point to remember is we know very well his name. His name is the person name is Rabindranath Tagore. He was the one who coined the national anthems of both our nations. So there are too many factors which connect our two countries, which entwine, bind our countries together, and we just should not give any opportunity. We should not do something which breaks this important connection. So again, as always, visually I rely on maps, and this might seem very cumbersome, very hodgepodge, and very hard to understand. But since I have created it, I know what places are where, how the boundaries are demarcated, and I have intentionally created this map so as to give you a holistic picture. We can discuss about relations, we can discuss about billions of dollars of trade, we can discuss about border enclaves, we can discuss about rail routes, the recently unveiled Padma bridge by Sheikh Hasina, the longest bridge in Bangladesh. But when you see this map, when you see the different connecting dots, this is what I'm talking about. These dots, these interspersed, by the density of these connections, by the density of these flags and these routes, the rail routes, the inland waterways, and the ports, all these, they signify what I have talked to you in the initial part of this lecture, the noble connection that India has with Bangladesh. So as we go along, we can just we will keep coming back to this map and we'll keep discussing. So major countries, if we go, so this we all know is Bangladesh. Don't get confused. Just now, what my purpose is to do is to also to enable you to exercise your mind, as always. That is why I have not exactly, you might not exactly realize the boundary of Bangladesh right now. So the hint is mostly the green portion of this map is Bangladesh. Why I have used different hues or shades of greens? This is because there are different administrative divisions, not the districts, but different administrative divisions of Bangladesh. So actually, if I use this cursor, so if you follow my cursor, this is actually Bangladesh. Sorry. If you follow my cursor, this is actually Bangladesh. So now you might have got an idea of the main. This you can also use as a guide. This is the border, the international border, which Indian states share. So there are some states which you also need to remember, both from the point of view of general knowledge and as well as prelims. So the Indian states bordering Bangladesh, I have just mentioned in other colors. This is West Bengal. This is Assam. Assam borders in somewhat in this area also, and here also. Then this is Meghalaya. This is Mizoram, and this is Tripura. So these are the major states which you need to remember, with respect to various other competitive examinations also. And neighboring countries I have just marked for reference. This is Nepal. These are the flags. So this is Bhutan. This is our very own India. This is Bangladesh, and then this is Myanmar. This is our most respected neighbor, that is China. Then this is Thailand. So why we are discussing all these countries, we'll come later to that. But basically, I hope you now come. I'll just enlarge it. So this green portion, all this green portion up to this. So you can see that the state of Tripura doesn't border Myanmar. It is the state of Mizoram that borders Myanmar, and other states here which border Myanmar are this Nagaland, then Manipur, and above that we have Arunachal as well. Arunachal, the northern part of Arunachal, then it borders with China. So these are administrative divisions. Some names just for reference. This is the Rangpur division. This is the Rajshahi. This is the Khulna division. This is Barisal division. This is the Dhaka division, Sylhet division, and this is the Chattogram. Earlier it was Chittagong, but since our countrymen, our leaders are changing the names, so why not the foreign countries as well? So these are the major administrative divisions. So this is the capital, Dhaka. Now you can see somewhat geography if we discuss all these fissure-like structures. These are because this is the majorly the deltaic part, the delta region which is formed by the Bhagirathi, Hooghly, the Ganges, the Padma river, which is the confluence of Ganges and Brahmaputra. Brahmaputra is known as Jamuna in Bangladesh. Brahmaputra is coming all the way from Tibet, although I should say China anyways. So this Brahmaputra is entering here. Then some of the common transboundary rivers which may come in the prelims. This is the Barak river, which originates in India. Then it divides into the Surma and the Kusiara, and these later combine with the Meghna, and these join further with the Padma, and finally these are draining into the Bengal ki Khadi or Bay of Bengal. This is the Madhumati river, some important. This again just for the sake of clarity, because this Farakka barrage, this has been much in news. So this is Farakka barrage, where the two rivers they divide the main Ganges river into Bangladesh, and one is the Bhagirathi or Hooghly river. This one tributary of Ganga I have just marked, Damodar. Then here there is a river which is going from Myanmar. This is Myanmar, the yellow portion. So Myanmar till Mizoram. So this is the Kaladan river. This is also important. So, and this is the Arakan Yuma range. This is the extension of the Purvanchal hills or the Himalayas. We can say it goes all the way down to the Andaman and Nicobar Islands. So that is also important. So these you can, if you are still not understanding, this is the Gumti river. Still, if you are confused about the borders, you can just keep in mind, just try to imagine what the boundaries. I have already told you the shades of the colors. So this exactly, if you see the map exactly, so this is the, if you try to just close your eyes and not look at the slide and just try to imagine the Bangladesh as you have seen in maps, you just have a world map in front of you, or atlas or a globe, you can easily come to know what Bangladesh looks like and what the adjoining places. And obviously I have mentioned the important cities and capitals of Indian states. Here we have Kolkata, West Bengal, Shillong, Meghalaya, then Manipur, Imphal, Mizoram, Aizawl, and Tripura, Agartala. So these bordering nations mainly we are going to talk about, because these are the major states which form the connections, both rail lines, roadways and the like. So we'll I've given the some other data also. For example, here we have the peripheral railway line which is running all these important cities, Jalpaiguri, Siliguri, then all these way to Gede, Petrapol. These are all in the news these days since the India-Bangladesh relations are riding on such a high wave. So, and this peripheral railway going from Dhaka, Agartala, Mahishashan, Guwahati, you don't need to remember all these places, but these are then this orange line, the rail line connecting the border cities. So like Gede and Darshana, Petrapol and Benapol. Then we have Akhoda and Chattogram or Chittagong. Then we have Maulvi Bazar and Mahishashan. Then we have Radhikapur, Biral, Singhabad, Rohanpur. Then we have this Haldibari and Chilahati. The name is somehow missing here. So these are some. Then we have the Kaladan multimodal project which will come to. Then IMT, this is the India, Myanmar, Thailand Trilateral Highway. The BMIC, the Bangladesh, Myanmar, India, China corridor. Then we have the major ports. This we can see the Haldia or Diamond Harbour. Kolkata is also treated as a riverine port. The Mongla port is much in news. The Sitwe port in this Myanmar. Then we have this Chattogram or Chittagong, important from the yesteryears, from the point of view of British also. So these are some of the important states. important figures, and international borders we have talked about. And here you can see the Rakhine state, which you have, if you have been following the news, this is a state in the country of Myanmar where the Rohingya Muslims, they are in overall they are an ethnic minority in the Myanmar, among the Myanmar ethnic people. So they have been heavily persecuted. The people have been killed. They have been oppressed. Women have been raped, and lots of criminal activities have been inflicted upon them. And basically they have migrated to various countries, mainly this Bangladesh, this Cox's Bazar, which is a very famous beach. Hundreds of miles wide, white sand. It is famous for its white sands. So mainly majority have gone to Bangladesh. We'll talk about this Bhashanchar Island, and this Kutupalong. If you see here, Kutupalong is now the world's largest refugee camp. So almost a million, Bangladesh is host to almost a million migrants, whether you can say refugees, illegal migrants. These terms are sometimes they're treated as derogatory, but they have no identity. They are devoid of shelter. All these are cramped places, and not only they are expanding by the day. We talk about urbanization, rapid expansion and development, but this is something else. This is something out of this world, which no one would like to be part of. So this Kutupalong and this Naya Para, these are some of the major refugee camps, which are safeguards or safe havens, not exactly, but they give some type of refuge. But even Bangladesh is has a population of 160 million, and Bangladesh Prime Minister said that if we had the resources to feed our own 160 million, that then 1 million Rohingya refugees would not have been a problem. But again, Bangladesh is persuading, or it is calling upon other countries, neighboring countries like China, India, and especially Myanmar, to take care of its nationals. And if it is not, then India should also provide kind of refuge, and China should also help in, because there are limited resources for Bangladesh. And currently with the following the COVID-19 outbreak, the Ukraine crisis, the economy is also in shambles. Then the fuel prices are also rising, much, that Sri Lanka, another one of our neighbors, has suffered. So these are some of the important aspects which we will keep on discussing when we proceed further. So this is the historical overview. Again, I'm not going to discuss the entire prelude to the Bangladesh war, the Great War of 1971, in which our nation defeated Pakistan and liberated Bangladesh. But one thing to note is that India initially did not interfere in Bangladesh's affair. India has never been that kind of nation. It is only when Pakistan tried to infiltrate or take advantage of its position in East Pakistan, the erstwhile East Pakistan, that is now Bangladesh, to make inroads into India, to attack India. It is only then that our government decided to wage a war or wage an attack to bring Pakistan back to its course. Usko बिल्कुल realize its position where it stands. So anyways, so we are talking about language. We often, what Curzon did, or what many people think, is that Bangladesh is Muslim majority and West Bengal is Hindu majority, but religion never can be a reason for connection of two or more communities. This is what I have experienced from my observations or my readings on for this newspapers or media. Take for not Bengal, take for example Punjab. West Punjab, the Punjab province in Pakistan, and the Punjab state of India, it is more related by language, that is Punjabi, and not to a much negligible extent that is divided by the two different religions. It is more connected by language. Similarly, in case of Bangladesh and West Bengal, India also, the people are more connected by their language, their dialect, that is Bengali, and not divided by the religion, that is what religions I am talking about. And mostly into the Cold War. See, initially, there were cordial relations. There have always been ups and downs between the relations between Bangladesh and India. But the thing is, since we have observed a kind of freedom from this flux since the Sheikh Hasina government has come to power. Again, two major parties have been in, you can keep reading side by side and keep listening also. So two major parties have been in, contesting for power in Bangladesh. One is the Awami League, to which Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina belongs, and one is the Bangladesh Nationalist Party, BNP, which these two are always contesting for power. So previous years, BNP is considered to be more pro-Pakistan or anti-Indian, and this Awami League is considered to be India-friendly of sorts. So that is why also this is one of the major reasons why we are experiencing surge and massive improvement, drastic improvement in the relations between the two nations. And so in the period after the creation of the new India, more or less cordial, but we observed fluctuations, ups and downs are always there in two countries, in any two countries. In 1972, the Treaty of Friendship was signed. So this was even before that. We'll come to that. Before that, in 1958, when Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru was the Prime Minister, so there was Firoz Noon, who was the leader of Bangladesh at that time. So they also signed treaties to exchange enclaves, which have been always part of an issue. Then we have already discussed about the two key parties, Awami League, and one is the Bangladesh Nationalist Party. And of course, Bangladesh, any party which is anti-India, it will always look towards establishing friendship or cordial relations with other countries who also find India as enemy. So I am referring to countries like China also. So anyways, so these I have just mentioned in these are the bonds of language, the war of. So this is the brief chronology of how the events shaped out. So this is again a brief overview of how the division, that is East Pakistan and West Pakistan. The East Pakistan now has become Bangladesh. So obviously any majority of the conflict, or whether we talk about civil wars or unrest, is majorly because a country or a region or a community is not adequately represented, whether politically or educationally, whether they don't have the right jobs. We can observe this in common day life. In India itself, there have been demands for various secessionist demands for autonomous states, and there are reservation issue has become such a huge deal. Time and again, Supreme Court is burdened with PILs, the litigation. So this is also no difference. East Pakistan was oppressed. It was and despite the popularity of the Bengali language, Urdu was imposed on the people by that the western part of the Pakistan. So this was and basically resources were very less. They had very less to eat, the general terms which we use, but it was very serious at that time. So in 1970, when elections took place, the Awami League won the elections. So this Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, which is a much known, much renowned and much loved, beloved figure in the Bangladesh history, he emerged as a leader. But the this Pakistan government, on the other hand, this was not really happy with that, and it tried to subdue this movement, suppress this movement. You might have heard about the Mukti Bahini movement of the Bangladeshi people, but that was tried to be brutally oppressed. And one deadly force, one auxiliary force of the Pakistani army, that is the Razakars. They you might have come across these terms. These were such bloodthirsty people. These were a type of Razakar stand for volunteers, but these were way worse than the just volunteers. They used to commit so much atrocities. They used to kill people who did not toe the line of the Pakistan government, did not toe the line of the government or the leaders of Pakistan. They raped women and they created all sorts of pandemonium and chaos. And time and again, even after 50 years of Bangladeshi independence, this Bangladeshi War Crimes Tribunal keeps propping up in the news feeds or the videos. So these even not long ago, some of the erstwhile Razakars, and these Razakars were also supported by this Jamaat-e-Islami, the terrorist organization. So these worked in tandem, and many still who are alive and who have been convicted, they are still accused, and then they are action is taken amongst them by the Bangladeshi War Tribunal. So then again, the preemptive attack on India by Pakistan. Of course, Pakistan is what you can say. Pakistan, China are two like greedy little kids, whose appetite cannot be satiated. So they obviously they already oppressed Bangladesh, so they saw an opportunity in very basic terms to make inroads and gain territories in India. But India was not going to not ready for that. So we held in the new nation, and of course we had already talked in one of our previous lectures about the Vikrant, not the new model but the old model, which played a major role in suppressing or advancing against the Pakistani forces. So one interesting fact, like I'm not going to talk about just the data. So one of the weirdest borders in the world. So we are going to discuss that. First, we are going to discuss what is an enclave. You might have heard about the concept of enclave. So enclave is a territory which has a particular ethnic identity, ethnic cultural identity, but it is surrounded by another territory which is ethnically, culturally, traditionally way distinct from that territory. So in this case, if I just in layman terms, if I just draw a simple example. So this is territory A. Here the people are very culturally, or they have some kind of identity with the national. They have their own land and they are connected with each other. Then we have another. This is B. So these their countries, this outer enclave is completely, the traditions, the identity, their ethnicity is completely distinct from that. So obviously these don't go along well. And then we might have another such territory, encompassing this, which is again similar to this territory. So what has happened is, this is the concept of conclave. In case of India, what has happened is, that, for example, this is a territory in India. Then what happens is, this is the territory of Bangladesh, and then this is the territory of India. I'll explain to you via map also what exactly is happening. So this territory, there is a legend, or maybe it's a truth, that there was a province of Cooch Behar, the kingdom of Cooch Behar. So that Maharaja of Cooch Behar and the Raja of Rangpur, we have discussed the Rangpur division. So earlier, when they was not properly demarcated states and boundaries, so they used to play a game of chess over these small territories. They used to trade these territories. This was these enclaves were known as Chit Mahals. So whatever they exchanged their enclaves, they were drunk or whatever they were doing for fun, and so these ultimately some legends, some books also say that when one Englishman was carving the boundaries, he spilled tea or ink, and they marked haphazard boundaries. But that is not entirely untrue also, because we know that Mr. Radcliffe was responsible for marking the boundaries between India and East Pakistan, India and West Pakistan, and we know how the border of West Pakistan has turned out. We all know about the Kargil war, the Battle of Siachen. There's no boundary at all. Radcliffe, these Britishers just in haste, they just marked haphazard boundaries and just left the country. They had nothing to do for the left behind people. And even in Bangladesh also, one thing you might notice, why not only the conclaves, if you observe the international boundaries of many countries, they are divided by natural frontiers also. For example, the Himalayas form a natural boundary of India with, you can say, China. But if you observe or maybe some major river is flowing, so the opposite sides they form a common border. But in this case, you see Pakistan and Indian border. There is hardly any commonality. In the north, we have mountainous regions. We have some passes. Then we come to the Punjab plains. Then in the south in Rajasthan, we have vast deserts. Then in Gujarat, we have the salt deserts. So I mean, there is no logic in marking just for the sake of creating chaos. These people have. Even if this Bangladesh we consider, in Bangladesh there is a deltaic area, marshy area. So many rivers crisscrossing, and people have been divided on both sides. They have connections with land, so there's no logic. And because it's a marshy, swampy land, lowland area, the borders have become so porous that there have been constantly ceaseless issues of cattle smuggling, of drug trafficking, human trafficking, the infiltration of the insurgents or terrorists. So all these are there. So my point of saying is, for example, if a person is currently residing inside Bangladesh, in a territory which is inside Bangladesh, so how will he access the major land where the actual embassies of our nation exist? So if he needs some passport, if he needs some visa, if he needs to even get an Aadhaar card or ration card, so he needs to approach the main territory, Indian territory. But there is no direct link. There is we have India, then you cross into Bangladesh, and then you have to cross over India. And when the international borders are not easy to cross. So this was what we will talk about also. And this Dahala Khagrabari is one of those notorious enclaves. This is the only third world order enclaves. Normally what enclaves are, that one conclave is surrounded by another conclave. So this is second degree, it is surrounded by other. So in this case, if we discuss, I'll show you the map. This is surrounded by one conclave, and then this conclave is surrounded by another conclave. So this kind of arrangement, although this kind of arrangement is also, we can find, this third order conclave is not found anywhere else in the world, although the concept of conclaves can be found in some European countries as well. So in this question, third order enclave was a part of India surrounded by Bangladesh enclave, which was surrounded by an Indian enclave, which was surrounded by Bangladesh. So add one more layer. So if this is the second order enclave, so this is India, then Bangladesh, and India, then Bangladesh. So I mean, what the person is supposed to do. So I'll just erase this. So here you can see, although it's just for this is the Hala Khagrabari, which was earlier. Now the issue has been settled by the 100th amendment, that is the exchange of the conclaves under Article 3, in which 111 enclaves of India were given to Bangladesh, and 51 of Bangladesh were returned to India, and some border areas were also demarcated. So this is the conclave, Indian conclave. This is surrounded by the Bangladeshi territory. Then we have the Indian territory, and then again we have the Bangladeshi territory. So if we now go to the map, so if this is visible to you, this, just follow this hand. These green enclaves, they the orange enclaves, they belong to India, and these green enclaves, they are part of Bangladesh. So these green enclaves are Indian territory. So here in this region somewhere there was the Dhala Khagrabari. So you can see that this conclave is surrounded by the Indian enclave, and then this is surrounded by the Bangladesh. This whole green is Bangladesh, and then out of this is the Indian border. So you can see the third order enclave. Similarly, other commonly enclave, this is like the Indian enclaves. These are surrounded by the Bangladeshi territory, and then the Bangladesh borders are somewhere out here. Similarly, this is the Indian territory or Indian enclaves, and these are the Bangladesh. So there was no way in hell that these could be easily demarcated. You might have heard about the Teen Bhiga corridor, or places like the Angar Pota or Dahalgram, which have now been returned to India, because these were again names of some important world-known conclaves which were part of Bangladesh. Now they have. So what exactly has been done is they have not rearrange the boundary. It's not that they have moved Bangladesh to cover these parts or India to these parts. What they have done is they have given option to the citizens or the residents of these areas to either become part of Bangladesh, or they go to travel to India and settle in the that country. So they'll get all the benefits, all the normal benefits that common citizen would receive. But the problem here is that because these people, they have been living over some several generations. So why would they do part with this their own land, their own flesh and blood? So this is one issue. Another issue is that although land boundary agreement has been signed, but still the rights, the basic amenities that should have been provided to these cross-border nationals, now they are nationals. So that has not been, these are just becoming another sort of ghettos that are not properly developed. So this is the case of the conclaves, one of the important concepts. So this is just a brief bit about the land boundary agreement. Here you can see, if you again follow this highlight. So we have, this is the length of the boundary, that is 4000. Exact is 4096, but it is 4100. So again, when India became independent, Sir Radcliffe, the great Sir Radcliffe, he demarcated. So again, this small patches of land, this is like, these are also known as these cage has specially drawn, because the people often refer to as they have no other place. They are like caged, the caged people who cannot escape. They don't have any identity of their own. So this is like small patches of land, and I've talked about chit mahals, game of chess and all. So again, efforts were made to resolve this. Obviously, when this came after Indian independence, so our Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, the leader of India, and here Firoz Khan Noon, which I have talked about. So there is one very famous enclave. There was one very famous enclave on which in polity you will study often this case of Supreme Court case of 1960, that is the Berubari Union case. So Berubari was an enclave of Bangladesh in India. So the decision was, the Indian government under Article 3 of the Constitution, it was to be transferred by amending the Constitution under 368. So what happened was a petition was filed under the Supreme Court to challenge the authority and question where it was to be determined whether the Parliament had overarching or supreme powers to directly transfer the territory of India into Bangladesh. So the Supreme Court ruled against this. So what happened was, this was this was still done, but that was by inserting this clause in the 9th Amendment of the Constitution. So these all you might find confusing, you might not be able to relate, but as you study the political science, the important point is that 9th schedule. So 9th schedule of this constitution is such a schedule in which if there is if anything, in layman terms, if anything, any law procedure or any passing of law or bill is not possible, so you can insert that clause into the Ninth Amendment. Another famous example or is the reservation in Tamil Nadu. So normally the reservation cap is 50% in India, that is determined by the Supreme Court, but in Tamil Nadu it is 69%, which is against what the constitution or the law demands or envisages. So that reservation clause has been inserted in the ninth schedule, so it cannot be challenged in a court of law. So these are some of the loopholes which still exist. So Nehru-Noon agreement was there. So amendment under Article 368, 9th Amendment. You can study the articles pertaining to the territory, the Union and its territory, that is Article 1 to 4. That is important from the point of view of mains and prelims. So the disputes then later then in 71, when Indira Gandhi came to power and Mujibur Rahman was the leader on the other side, other again attempts were made to resolve this issue. So this is entirely the crux of the matter. So finally in 2015 the much awaited land boundary agreement was implemented and the conclaves were sort of exchanged and the boundaries were more or less properly demarcated. So some brief, this is our Prime Minister Modi and this is Sheikh Hasina. So its ratification by India required an amendment, we have already discussed. This was affected by the 100th amendment. So what you have to, important point which once came in Public Service Commission, the Bihar Public Civil Services exam. This is the 100th amendment. You might have heard about some amendments like the 113 amendments have even amendment bill. So the amendment bill and the amendment are two different aspects. It is not necessary that the 100th amendment, which was conforming to the land boundary agreement between India and Bangladesh, also was precluded by the 100th amendment bill. The 100th amendment bill might have been pertaining to some other issue. So often sometimes it may happen that the constitutional amendment bill might not get approved in the parliament. So in that case the bill does not become an amendment. So that is why the amendment bill number will always be in most of the cases be greater than the amendment. So for example, recently the EWS, the economically weaker section quota was in the news. So according to my knowledge, that was 103rd amendment, not the amendment bill. The amendment bill was somewhere around I think 117 or 119. So it was the 103rd amendment. So similarly, the land boundary agreement is the 100th amendment, not the 100th amendment bill. And then again, under the terms, 100 enclaves transferred to Bangladesh by India and Bangladesh transferred 51 to. So even though India is such a benevolent country, India knew that India lost somewhat more area as compared to Bangladesh, but still it is always willing to resolve the disputes. Even now Pakistan, our friendly neighborhood Pakistan, is ravaged by the floods. It is affected. The major Indus highway has also been breached, and there is one town, Dadu town, I keep reading, so these coming to my mind. So even India is planning to send its resources or aid to that country which has tormented us for so many years. So that is we can say the Badappan or the elderly brotherly role that India plays. So inhabitants of the enclaves were given the right to remain on the territories as nationals of the state to which the territories were transferred. Then apart from this, some boundary was also renegotiated or rearranged in the states of West Bengal, Tripura and Assam, totaling 6.1 kilometers. So this is what the land boundary agreement talks about. So now we have one of the major causes of the animosity between India and Bangladesh, which to this date has not been resolved, and majorly that unresolvability is attributed to this lady in particular, but of course many political. So it is the Teesta River. Just because before starting this discussion, I'll just refer the map so that you have a exciting or enthusiastic idea of this river. So when we come to the map, so this is the mighty Teesta River. So it originates from the Zemu Glacier. Zemu Glacier. It is there is a valley here also, the Yumthang Valley. So basically, Zemu Glacier is the origin. Like we have the Gangotri Glacier or the Yamunotri Glacier. So this Zemu and Khangse, two glaciers are where this major Teesta River originates, and this Rangit River is one of the major tributaries of Teesta. This Rangit meets in at Teesta Bazar, and thereafter then Teesta after this enters Bangladesh here, and then it joins the Jamuna or Brahmaputra as it is known in Bangladesh. So this is one, as you can see, like we have the local issues. We talk about the Kaveri dispute issues. We have the SYL Satluj Yamuna canal. Punjab doesn't want to share its waters with Haryana or Delhi. We have the Kaveri river. We have the Periyar river. Godavari river. So normally what happens is the lower riparian states. Lower riparian means that these states or the territories which are receiving water later, because the major flow that is in this region, so that it is often alleged that the countries which are in the upper riparian, the upper phase of the river, they should grant more leeway, or they should allow the they should be more gentle or more accommodative to transfer or allow more waters for this is the delta area, so it is used for irrigation, it is used for fishing, it is used majorly for agriculture. It this river, according to stats, it feeds a whopping number 10 million people it is responsible for. So there this has always been thorn in the relations between India and Bangladesh. So now we get to the major issue. So some stats I have just mentioned here. So we have already talked about this. Sikkim, it originates in Sikkim. Khangse and Zemu glaciers meets joined by Rangit at Darjeeling Teesta Bazar. Then Mekhliganj is a place in North Bengal's Cooch Behar region, and where it enters Bangladesh by joining Brahmaputra. Then of Teesta's catchment area is basically the waters, the tributaries or the drainage basins from where this river receives all its water. So from its catchment area, 83% of this area lies in India, while 17% lies in Bangladesh. So there was a preliminary deal which was signed between India and Bangladesh, which was since 1983. So it was agreed that 39% of the waters of the Teesta would be shared by India, 36% which would be given to Bangladesh, and rest 25% were supposed to be unallocated. And in 2011, again interim deal for 15%. This figure was revised to 42.5% to India and 37.5% to Bangladesh. But Mamta Didi opposed it agreement, which was supposed to be signed in 2011. So it is still lingering. And Bangladesh wants 50% of the water between December and May annually. India claims a share of 55%. December and May, normally we all know, if you have studied a little bit of geography, it is the lean season, because we have the monsoon rains. They normally shed their rain or moisture in the 4 months of June to September. So these regions, the river flows, it drastically decreases during these lean months, especially from December to May. Then this is a picture of the river Rangit, meeting the Teesta river. One other important tributary, if you might want to note down, is Redak. That is also a tributary of Teesta. Then again, by these icons we can say how important it is for the plain areas, the fishing, the irrigation farming, and so it is the Teesta is Bangladesh's fourth largest transboundary river for irrigation and fishing. Then there's some stat over the floodplains, and its catchment, like I have said, supports about 10 million people and 14% of the overall crop. So rice is again predominant crop grown in Bangladesh, much like West Bengal. So not only language, these crops are also, even if we talk about jute also. And nearly 1 lakh hectares across 5 districts impacted by the upstream withdrawals of Teesta, and hydropower on Teesta is other point of conflict. So again, if I go, so here we have one important point of conflict that we have talked about, Farakka barrage. It is similar, more or less similar to a dam. It is here the barrage is used for mainly used for the reallocation or diverting the waters of the main river Ganges to Bhagirathi Hooghly, because again this helps in maintaining the regular flow of the water even in the lean season. So obviously when this Ganges the water is being diverted, so obviously Bangladesh is already pissed off that less water is there. So again this Farakka where Mamta Didi is not allowing this, not relenting on the sharing of waters, it still. Then another one other important example of a dam is this Tipaimukh dam on the river Barak. So this Tipaimukh also regulates the water ultimately of this Surma and Kushiara, which again then become Meghna and join Padma. So this again is an issue because this also doesn't allow the regular release, or it hinders the sharing of water. So this is what is the problem. So this is basically one of the major points of dispute.